The Golden Gate National Recreation Area is owned by the National Park Service. Within its present boundaries, it has 65 miles of coastline and 1,231 historic structures. In 2002, it had 27 rare and endangered species, which is more than any other national park except for Florida's Everglades National Park and the National Parks of Hawaii. This area also protects 7 former Army forts, including forts in the Presidio of San Francisco. It also protects Bow Ridge, the Olima Valley, the Point Bonita Lighthouse, Alcatraz Island, Sutro Heights, the Cliff House, and Ocean Beach. Point Reyes National Seashore and the Golden Gate National Recreation Area combined is America's largest expanse of national parkland in an urban region. In the 1960s and 70s, brave people had to step up and save this land from developers.
Well, I think the most important thing to know, because this space in the Bay Area is so different from so many other parts of the country, is that when I got into this in 1970, the saving of land in the Bay Area had been going on for 100 years. It was the mayors of San Francisco who set aside the parks and squares, and then Golden Gate Park in 1872. It was Muir Woods in 1907, Mount Tamalpais in the 1920s, and going on up to Point Reyes. People expected this place to remain beautiful. I mean, they were just thrilled. When the Army said, we're going to leave, they said, okay, but we've got to keep this. We've got to preserve it. Otherwise, it'll just all be chopped up and developed. And so that's what I stepped into. Actually, this was part of a big national plan in the Nixon administration in 1970 to have national parks in urban areas. In fact, Nixon said he wanted to do something for the national parks in every state, which was amazing. But now he came up with this idea, and he had an interior secretary named Walter Hickel. Turned out to be a leading supporter and promoter of these national parks in urban areas, which were mostly, but not all of them, based on unneeded military land. That's how this happened or started. The lead congressman on this, a Democrat, Philip Burton, said this national parks and urban areas is a good idea. But our congressman, a Republican, in other words, this was bipartisan and very collegial, and he said, oh, I'm a fifth generation Californian, and they collaborated on making sure that this land got saved. There had been a huge development proposed in Marin called Marancello. This was to be a city of originally 30,000 people, but people in Marin absolutely didn't want it because, as one writer said, that probably means 16 lanes on Highway 101. The theory was that everybody would live and work in Marancello and never come into San Francisco, and that was about as silly as you could get. And so people fought this. Finally, in 1970, after the original developer had died and the project had been taken over, they made it impossible. It's an attitude here about we like this place, and this place's natural and scenic resources are so valuable that we're going to hold on to them and restore them. Point Reyes National Seashore, Muir Woods National Monument, Fort Point National Historic Site, San Francisco Maritime National Historic Park, Golden Gate National Recreation Area. They are all administered in the same way. They all have to meet the same criteria. This place was set aside for its natural, historic, scenic, and recreational values, and its recreational and educational opportunities. First of all, to be informed, to know that this is a heritage that we all have, and to recognize that it's precious, which means you got to go out and hike and bicycle and picnic and do whatever it is that you like to do. I would certainly look in the park, in the nearest part of the park to you, for opportunities to volunteer or intern. Recognize that you have to protect it, you have to watch out for it.
It's crazy to think that our beautiful home was ever in jeopardy. As we grow up, we will need to fill the shoes of important conservationists and political activists like Amy.